Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me as always is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
The Grammys took place on Sunday, and BTS Army was looking forward to seeing BTS perform and possibly win a Grammy. However, BTS fans are upset at the results because the group did not win for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance at the Grammys. They were nominated for Dynamite, which was their first song to be released completely in English, and this was the first K-pop group to get a Grammy nomination. So the winner of the category was Rain on Me by Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande. The other nominees were Un Dia by J Balvin, Dua Lipa, Bad Bunny, and Taney, Intentions by Justin Bieber and Quavo, and Exile by Taylor Swift and Bon Iver. So BTS Army was disappointed and upset, and the reasons were twofold. They felt that the Recording Academy was taking advantage of BTS's popularity by inviting them to perform without recognition, and they also felt that they were being used for clout because they were using all the advertising and commercials and things, and they were featuring BTS a lot and didn't end up giving them an award. Not that that's owed just because you're nominated, but I think they thought that all the attention being given, it made sense that they would be a winner, because normally, artists that are featured a lot, that's kind of a sign that you're taken seriously and that, you're going to be featured at the Grammys. So yeah, there was a lot of tweets and Reddit posts and things like that. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't win because I didn't think that category was very strong, the nominees that were there.
Oh, are you upset?
I'm not upset. I'm just surprised. It seemed like not a tough competition.
Well, I mean, the names were big enough to be tough. That's not the point, though. I'm surprised. I think I'm on record as saying I thought they would win, but I didn't think they would win because they deserved to win. If this went on based on what people deserve, then you'd have totally different winners. They'd be like Album of the Year, or at least be nominated for Album of the Year. I thought they would win because the Grammys is not about awarding quality or talent. It's about self-interest. And I thought they were finally at the point where they realized that just giving BTS an award is in their self-interest. But apparently not. But like you said, they use them, like their performance toward the back end of the show, which is a pretty prime time spot, right? Either the end or the beginning. That's the most important spot to play in the show. And they use them there. They use them in promotions. They know they're the biggest draw at this point, They draw more eyeballs than Beyonce, than Taylor Swift at this point, at this moment in time. So they use them. But I'm not sure they didn't try to give them an award. I think that the people running the Grammys understand that they probably should get an award this year, right?
Right.
But I also think that there's only so much they can do to fix things. I think they can fix the nominations to an extent. But if that were the case, maybe they should have just given them a nomination for Best Album or something like that. Or maybe their control is limited. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works. But I'm willing to bet that it's not just a perfectly up and up process.
Yeah.
Right? People can manipulate it, and they do it for their own self-interest. But I would have thought that they were smart enough to know that it was in their self-interest this year to give it to BTS, give something to them. I think the problem is that they can manipulate it only so much, but the general voting body has to vote at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think that they are still not open. They're still not open to BTS. I'm not going to blame it on xenophobia. I think the voting body is fairly diverse, but the problem is although, racially and gender-wise it's diverse, it's still its own industry. It's the American recording industry.
Yeah.
And BTS exists outside of that. You can look how you want. You can be all manner of things and still win awards. That's clear at the Grammys. But you have to be in that club, and they're not. And I think that there's just still not enough support because they're not in. But yeah. I do think that whoever's running the Grammys put some effort into getting them an award, and they just failed, which is unfortunate.
The executive producer of the Grammys is the same guy that runs James Corden's show, and he's aware of BTS because he had them on James Corden's show a lot, and he knows their impact, and I'm sure he tried.
Fact that they're using the advertising. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to know that they sell better than other acts. Their name draws. of course, the people who are running the Grammys, I bet you in an ideal world, BTS would win multiple awards. But it's just probably tough to push it in that direction given the voting block, given the voting populace that still exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the MTV Awards or something where they could just probably just give it to whoever they want to give it to. The Grammys they still do have to have a vote, you know? I think that the amount of manipulation they can insert happens all before the nomination process. But once a vote happens, the vote does happen. I don't think they rig a vote necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact that they are used for clout, that's almost proof that the people at the top know that they're a big act and that they should be getting more recognition. But
Right.
yeah, like you said, there's only so much they can do. And I think the fact that their category had big names, but not necessarily like the best songs, that's still like people vote. It's like, oh, Lady Gaga, let me vote for that. Taylor Swift, let me vote for that. It's like the big names are still having, people are more inclined to choose those names.
Yeah, so I can understand people being upset, but also as we stated before, the real prize isn't even winning the Grammy, although I'm sure they would have liked to have won one. The real prize is just the exposure from the event. Although honestly, the Grammys are trash and people aren't even watching it now, so I'm not even sure they got that much exposure. It is pretty. I could understand people being upset, especially since BTS did a live performance for them. Okay. It was better than the other people's performances. Also, they didn't even lip sync. They bothered to sing live. That's going out of their way, right? They danced on a roof. It took a lot of effort. And I would say the Grammys probably at this point, I mean, if they're not even getting an award out of it, they probably didn't deserve that sort of effort. Because their ratings have just been tanking. So what are they even really getting out of it?
Yeah, that performance looked very expensive.
Yeah, they should have gotten an award out of it at least, considering the declining popularity of the Grammys.
Another thing people pointed out was that whole category, it wasn't really groups or duos, it was collabs. And maybe that's not as much of a concept here in the West. It's like, well, if you're two, if you're three, if you're whatever, just for that one song, that counts as a group. But a lot of people felt like the BTS was the only actual group in this category.
It was just a throwaway category. It's kind of offensive that they were only put in one throwaway category. I felt like they should have at least been put in a category that aired, not a pre-announced category. Because if you count up all the categories that are pre-announced, there's like 100 categories at the Grammys.
Yeah.
There's like spoken word children's poetry or some garbage like that, right? So, I mean...
Give them a couple of chances.
They could have given them, like 3 or 4 nominations. I'm sure that they technically qualified for at least 3 or 4 categories. No. So, although I do think that the producers recognize that they should try to get BTS an award, I don't know that they tried that hard. And ultimately, I don't know that it would even have helped because in this throwaway category, they couldn't even win, right? Like the voting public is just not open to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure they would have been open to it in any category.
Do you think it was cruel of them to leave BTS performance for the end? Because it seems like that should be Artist of the Year people, like Album of the Year people should be...
Cruel? No. I think it's complimentary because it's a prime spot. Right?
Well, because the fans are like waiting and waiting, and this is like taking the whole day, and it's like, okay, when is BTS performing?
Oh, well, that's why you shouldn't even watch the Grammys. You should just like watch it on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing.
So...
I just waited until I heard they performed and then looked up the video.
Right. I wouldn't blame you. Don't watch it, for God's sakes. Right. I mean, they're not even in an award being announced.
When we heard they were going to be in the pre-show, that was already not a good sign because they wouldn't even air it. That doesn't show like, oh, the winner is blank. That's just, here's the published results.
Mm-hmm. I almost think they did you a favor, so you just don't even have to watch it. You just tune out. So, no, that's not a problem.
So the fact that they didn't win, I think BTS, they're used to being underdogs. It seems like they've been underdogs their whole career. I guess they'd started out and they weren't didn't have the huge debut or anything. They just had to build everything up to where they are today. So I think this almost kind of works in their favor. They still have something to work towards, and at some point they can win a Grammy. I think it's possible.
I think that they shouldn't bother with the Grammys anymore. I really think they shouldn't, because I really think there should be a sort of a paradigm shift where people should just not care about these old institutions as much, not give them the respect that they've always garnered, right? For instance, in a similar way, I don't really watch TV anymore, and I don't get news or media from TV anymore or radio. I get a lot of it from YouTube and places like that. And it's still called alternative, but in my mind, there's so many people using it now. It's not really alternative anymore. It's just on the same level. And I think that BTS constantly, I wouldn't say supplicating themselves or begging. They're not begging for a Grammy or anything like that. But even saying things in interviews like, oh, this is maybe the ultimate goal, right?
Right.
Like this is better than I don't even know the name of awards back in Korea. Like one of the many awards that they win back there. Well, yeah, it is probably better because it's harder. But I don't think they should even say it anymore. I think they should just say, well, screw them. We made it big without them. We're bigger than every American artist without them. What do we need a Grammy for? And also, why do we need to appear on the show? They're getting benefit from us appearing on the show. And we're barely getting any benefit from them because their ratings are declining anyway, right? This is a situation where there's a sort of like the power balance is changing. And I think that people are going to start to catch up and see that, and things are going to change as far as how things are viewed, right?
Right.
So I don't see why BTS should be, so earnest in trying to get a Grammy or playing ball with them. I think they should just say, screw it. We have performed like a couple times. We've gotten nothing. One crappy nomination, which didn't even turn into anything. But like you said, they're not guaranteed something. But let's be real about this right here. This is kind of an arrangement that they have, right? With all the big American artists, it is at least. Okay. Can you imagine if like a Scooter Braun's artist never won anything and never got the respect of getting nominations or anything? Would they ever appear on the Grammys?
No.
Or would he, behind the scenes, talk to somebody who has pull and say, if you ever want to see Ariana Grande on your show, you have to make some nominations happen. You have to whatever, right? Maybe they can't guarantee a win for her, but a certain number of nominations, he could probably demand that. They either need to do that, or maybe they're being like polite Koreans, or maybe they just don't understand the game, or maybe they feel like they don't have the clout or the pull to demand those sorts of things. But then just don't play ball with them. You don't need them. Just like they didn't need radio to infiltrate the American market. Because we have this thing called internet. We have this thing called YouTube. The game has changed. This is a different world, right? You don't have to beg these powers that be for exposure anymore. You don't have to beg them for recognition. So maybe they should be coming to you, right? Well, I think that they really should think about just changing the way they view these things and not supplicating.
Right. Maybe like take their own path.
They don't need the Grammys. They don't need American media. What do they need them for? Now, perhaps you might say, well, big hit. They have other acts that they want to push, and they want to maintain good relationships. Well, if that's the case, then okay. And then maybe they can keep doing that. But it doesn't look like it's really fruitful, And you don't need to play ball with certain institutions. You could still play ball with other ones, like, James Corden, Tonight Show. Those people seem to want to do business with you just fine. So just keep doing business with certain people in America.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, and just cut ties with other ones because it's not fruitful.
If they had won with Dynamite being an all-English song, do you think that would have meant, okay, K-pop, if you want to, penetrate and win awards here, you have to have an all-English song?
No, I don't think that would mean anything.
You don't think it would set a precedent of anything?
No, I don't think that means, what it means is you'd have to become the biggest music act in the world to win a Grammy here, and a crappy one at that. It would have nothing to do with the language that it's in. I don't think that's the case.
Well, what about the fact that, remember last year, the Oscars, everybody loved Parasite, and somehow it actually won Best Picture. Like, that was making me think, okay, everybody's accepting like foreign stuff, South Korean stuff. Maybe they're open to BTS winning something. It's like, why do you think there's a difference?
Why do I think there's a difference? That's a good question. My guess is that Academy voters of motion pictures, they're a little bit more pretentious, or I don't know if that's the right word, but they have this view of themselves as sort of the gatekeepers of art. Like, we award things based on merit or whatever is fine filmmaking or stuff like that. I think that they have less of a view of themselves as just an industry club. and they think that we award the best film. Now, they have certain ideas about what a best film looks like that a lot of people may not agree with, but subjectively, they sincerely believe themselves that they are trying to award the best film, and they're protecting the art of filmmaking. Whereas I'm not sure that the voters for the Grammys necessarily view it that way. I think it's just kind of a chummy industry club thing.
Yeah, it's like insiders.
So, and that's just, I'm not in either industry, so that's just totally a shot in the dark on my part. But that would be my guess, because you're right. The Motion Picture Academy, they have been far more open to foreign films. Maybe not as much as they should have been, but definitely they've been pretty open-minded about it.
Yeah, like
this
some
goes
people
back 20, 25 years.
Some people think, oh, they didn't do it fast enough, but I think that it's been logical. I think the film industry, they respect foreign filmmaking, and so if they see a good one, they will award it. Whereas the music industry, it's more like, what are the big names? What are the people I like? I like what I like. I like Adele. I like Beyonce.
Right. Who do I work with? What producers do I work with? Stuff like that. I don't think it's that way in film, because I think they have a more high-minded view of themselves. That's just my guess.
Yeah, and I also think bunch of other things that were weird about this year's Grammys that people noticed, like The Weeknd not being nominated and some other people, and then seeing what the results were, it seemed like there was really a focus on female winners. So I almost think they really wanted like a lot of women to win, because it was like the rock category was all women, and the best new artist was a female, was Megan Thee Stallion. All the female rappers were in the rap category. It was just like so many women, and it seemed like, wow, there's so many. It's like that doesn't seem normal. Like maybe they shut out The Weeknd for a reason, because they thought he might win a lot of awards.
I don't know. Is there a conspiracy against The Weeknd? Is he out of the club? I don't know. He's American, so that couldn't be it.
I've created this conspiracy. But I don't know. I don't know what he did wrong.
Did they just want women to win? I guess it's possible.
I don't know who he wronged to.
He seems to be pretty antagonistic. Like he seems to have stepped on some toes. I'm not in the know, but it seems like he has. I don't know. Maybe maybe this is the year of the woman. I mean,
like Billie Eilish won another like couple of them, and it's like, wait, did she even release anything? Like I didn't hear any of her songs. And Beyonce won, and it's like, wait, she didn't even have an album. She had like one song, and then she was featured on Savage Remix. So it's like Beyonce barely lifts a finger, and she's like, oh, here's 5 Grammys.
Well, yeah, she's currently the ruler of music.
I think she's very good at getting the nominations, and if she's on the ballot, people will vote for her. So I think she has a lot of influence.
Right. And Taylor Swift won.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
I don't know.
I mean, that was a good album, but when I heard it, and I really liked that album, I didn't think, oh, this is album of the year. I just thought this is a really good album. But I don't know, maybe based on, with the other ones that were nominated, which these other albums, like I didn't really even not familiar with. There was a Coldplay album, there was Black Pumas, there was Jenny Aiko and Haim. The only other album I even listened to was Dua Lipa's album, which that was a good album too, but it was just like a good pop album. I wouldn't say an album of the year, but I mean, I guess it makes sense that she wins by default if there's no The Weeknd there, which supposedly was such an amazing album, although I didn't listen to it. So yeah, I think there was just maybe an agenda for a lot of female wins this year. Kiss singer and bassist Gene Simmons declared several years ago, rock is finally dead. And that was based on his view of how it used to be, where you'd have a record company and they're supporting you, and you go on tour, and then that allows rock stars to create great music or whatever. And he says that era is dead. And so he's basically, Kiss is from the 70s, right?
Oh yeah, they're old.
Okay, so they're like dead in the 70s. And he's being interviewed, and the person was asking him, it's like, okay, well, if you're saying rock is dead, then why are you launching a line of guitars and basses? So he didn't really have that much to back up this statement. He's like, oh, from 1958 to 1988, and then he's like naming off all the bands that were great then. It's like Elvis, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones.
Right. There's no great rock bands. That's true. I think.
And he's like, okay.
I mean, I don't agree with him.
Yeah.
I think the Killers are a great band, although they're kind of old now too.
I don't agree with his premise, but he seems to think, okay,
I think
after
Franz Ferdinand's a good band. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. He thinks like since the 80s there hasn't been any
Right.
great rock bands. He's actually not even right about that because yeah, like you said, the Killers, Franz Ferdinand, there's
Yeah.
like the Strokes, there's
The White Stripes.
there's Imagine Dragons maybe. I don't know.
No, that will be controversial.
Coldplay is
Even calling them rock,
a band.
that's not a rock band.
Okay. But there's still plenty of great rock bands out there.
Well, if you mean there's white guys with guitars, then yeah,
Yeah,
there's plenty
and
of them.
that if they go on tour, it's a big tour and it
Yeah.
sells out. Yeah, there's a lot of big rock bands.
Well, yeah, I don't agree with him in that. I think what he didn't he say there'd be never be another Beatles or something like that. Like that's a pretty high bar. Of course, there's never going to be another Beatles, but so what?
Yeah.
So what? That doesn't mean that good music isn't being produced. And he said that boy bands are like they're like bubblegum, they're candy, they're ephemeral and not substantive music, right? And then kids will like it and then dump it.
Yeah, so in his estimation of the rock scene, he thinks, okay, rock went away, and then there was boy bands, and then he's like, NSYNC, One Direction, BTS. Once those girls grow a little older, it's going to go away. And it's like, they don't write songs, they don't play instruments, and basically he's saying, like, any boy band is worthless and doesn't even compare to the great rock bands that he knew about in the 70s. What he's saying about BTS is like not even accurate because they write songs, they play instruments, and their fans are all ages. They're not teen girls. So it's like he's just one of those guys that's like, oh, I'm going to make a bold statement. And he's like, doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Well, I do think that most of their fans are younger and probably female, but yeah, first of all, I don't think the people listening to this even know who Gene Simmons is. He's the leader of a rock band and they used to paint their faces. And also, by the way, don't think that this rock band is some kind of like important, well-respected rock band. Nobody even listens to their music. They're just kind of a spectacle band, and people just remember they painted their faces.
Yeah, that's what's so offensive about this is like he's sitting
They
from
don't
like
write good music either.
he's
That's my
sitting
point.
on his pedestal like he knows anything about that. It's like, okay, they were successful because his kind of rock music, people like that in the 70s, but his fans, it's the same exact fans. Like if he went on tour right now, it's the same people. It's not a great group. And like they painted their faces. They had like ridiculous costumes. Like they're kind of a joke band if you really look at it objectively.
Yeah, so probably people listening are not familiar with them, but that's kind of what they are. And he also says that he thinks that people can't get ahead in music because people are downloading music.
Yeah,
Like,
he's one of those.
This one is like 2003. It's like that's not the reason
like
why.
when Napster came out.
This is not the reason why. I mean, people they've adjusted to the new ecosystem. Yes, streaming doesn't pay well, but that's why you tour. That's why you have a different business model. Okay, that's not the reason why talented people can't get ahead in the music industry, because talented people can get ahead in the music industry, and arguably it's even more democratic now because you can write your music and you can put yourself out there without the help or the blessing of a large label.
Yeah, you can do things outside of a record company.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Lil Nas X come from nowhere, just like putting out his own stuff? Did a major label have to give him a ton of money before he became a star? He became a star because he wrote a song that was catchy and then it caught on, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that's the only song that he will ever write that is catchy. But the fact remains that he got into the music scene and he didn't need a major record label to back him. Why? The internet. I don't know. He put it somewhere, SoundCloud, whatever. I'm not sure, right? But
Probably.
he is an internet artist, essentially, you could say, right? And even in a way, BTS is an internet artist because the vast majority of their growth in North America had to come through the internet, you know? Yes, they had a company pushing them, a Korean company backing them, but they had to use tools that are just basically available to anybody, right? YouTube, stuff like that. These things are available to anybody. You do not have to have, Warner Brothers Records give you a contract. You don't. You can make it without that. So this has nothing to do with streaming and downloading. First of all, no one downloads music. It's like such a boomer thing to say. That's not preventing anybody from making it big. And in fact, it probably has enabled more people to reach more audience.
Yeah.
Now, how do you make money? There's still ways to make plenty of money. It's just a different business model. It's just not the model he grew up with.
Yeah. So he thinks if it's not that model, it's not going to
Right.
result in great rock bands.
And even that is really oddly illogical on his part, because I can guarantee you that Kiss for the past 40 years has made way more money touring. Who buys their records? Their whatever 2 million fans, I'm sure they have all of their records already.
Right. The physical copies.
I'm 100% sure they already own your records. You continue to make money from them because they still go see you in concert. So it hasn't taken any money away from you. You know, he's fine in this new world. So he's just like just angry old man complaints.
Yeah. He's very misinformed on what's going on in the present day.
Do boy bands do the same thing? Like, do they write music? Do they play instruments? No, but different people do different things. And this idea that there's nobody out there playing instruments and writing their own music, that's wrong too. There are plenty of artists who are playing instruments and writing music and performing their music. And there's plenty of artists who are not. And he's all mixed up. He even cited Motown as one of the good ones. Mm-hmm. But they didn't write their own music.
No.
And play instruments. Motown artists were very similar to boy bands, actually.
It's the same model.
It's the same exact model. You just get people who can perform. Somebody else writes it. Someone else produces it, right?
Right. And it's managed at the top.
Right. And those people don't have to play instruments either. So maybe he has, Alzheimer's or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Very factually incorrect interview, but it was pretty revealing. It's like, oh, this is what some old rock star thinks. And he knows about BTS. So we know that they're penetrating.
How could he not?
All ages. But yeah, that's funny. Like him critiquing BTS. That's kind of a joke. Kakao M and Spotify announced a renewal of their licensing agreement. So we talked about last episode how a bunch of our songs disappeared from Spotify because of this whole issue. And now on March 1st, it seems that they have repaired the rift and they signed some kind of deal, and the songs all came back on March 12th. I looked at my Spotify and like everything was back where it was. So it was like, that's good. I mean, there's bigger problems in the world, but it's like, I'm glad they fixed this and it didn't take super long.
There's always bigger problems in the world. That's no reason to not care about your personal problems. There's always a bigger problem, you know?
I was like,
and even the world's problems ultimately are not that important.
Yeah.
You can always scale out to some perspective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the universe will ultimately experience heat death, so ultimately nothing really matters. I know that's morbid, but whatever.
Or like when they say our time on this earth is just so amazingly small compared to the life of the universe and everything. It's like we're here for like no time practically.
Right. Not only are we here for no time, the earth is here for no time.
Yeah.
Not only is the earth here for no time, this galaxy is here for no time, by the way.
It's like this is all so insignificant.
This galaxy will crash into the next one over, Andromeda, soon. And by soon, I mean like 50 billion years or something like that. Whatever. Anyway, it's great that they're back. And I read the story. I read the statements. And in my opinion, Kakao M won. They won the standoff. They got more money out of Spotify. Whatever deal they signed, they were making more money now.
So you're saying with how fast it happened, that must be what happened is they got a bunch more money?
I think that, number one, the way I saw it, they had the leverage in the situation. I don't think that they needed Spotify more than Spotify needed them. That's my opinion.
Right.
Right? Because were they getting... Now, when they took it off Spotify, they're not getting whatever residuals, right, from Spotify. But I have to imagine they're not... That's not like their main revenue stream.
They care about what's happening in Korea, like the streaming there.
Exactly. And keep in mind, their customer base, the Korean customers of Kakao M, right? They weren't complaining about anything. They didn't have any music that just disappeared, right? If they were listening to it on Melon, nothing changed the next day. It's not like it's not like their customers couldn't listen to Taylor Swift now. So their customers have no inkling or problem with what's going on.
Right.
Spotify, however, suddenly had a wave of customers who say, "What the hell is going on?"
They had a headache.
Right. And it wasn't even their fault, but customers they're going to complain.
Yeah.
So Kakao had the leverage.
The customers don't care whose fault it is. It's like, fix
No.
this.
They don't. And
yeah, you're probably right. And maybe Spotify ended up paying more than they intended, or whatever the deal was originally, in order to fix it quicker.
it's just money. Money fixes all things. And also the official statement read, "We remain committed to protecting the rights of artists, labels, and rights holders, and to the growth of a stable, creative ecosystem for the Korean music industry." That sounds like the statement of a winner. That's, I've heard a lot of corporate statements in my life. That sounds like a statement of a party that's won.
Okay.
Because they're not apologizing for anything, right? They're just saying, yeah, this is what we sought to protect the Korean ecosystem, essentially, right? And we're going to continue to do that.
Right. So you're reading between the lines. It
sounds like they won that battle. Right? It sounds like they won that battle. And here is Spotify's statement. "We remain committed to actively working towards negotiations with artists, labels, and rights holders in order to have a positive impact on the Korean streaming system." So one side talks about protecting and defending the health of an ecosystem, and the other side says, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll continue to strive to have a positive impact on that same ecosystem." Mm-hmm. Nobody is talking about protecting, Spotify's ecosystem or whatever. It's like that's not the thing that they both are essentially agreeing needs to be protected or was protected by this transaction. And if that was the thing that was protected by this transaction, what does that imply? That implies that they got more money. What else protects that ecosystem than probably more money or some kind of other concession or compromise, right?
Yeah.
When you read between the lines, it's pretty clear. They're in their own words. What was the thing of contention? What was the thing that was important? Who was it important to? And who won that transaction? So I don't know how much more money they got, but they got more money. I'm almost certain. Or some other kind of bargaining.
Big Hit Entertainment will be changing their official company name to HYBE Corporation. According to reports on March 10th, the name change marks Big Hit Entertainment's transformation from a management agency for acts like BTS and TXT to a comprehensive content company. So I think people were really confused by this announcement because it's like, why do they need to change their name? It's like, there's nothing wrong with the name. But I guess since they think they have a larger mission than just being a record label, that this is needed. It's kind of like when Google has a bigger company, Alphabet, and then that is like, Google comes out of that and then all these other companies branch out of that. I think, is that kind of the structure that they're looking at?
Not quite. That was done for antitrust reasons, probably.
Oh.
That wasn't quite the same motivation. But yeah, essentially what's going on here is, first of all, the name stinks. Is it HYBE or is it HYBE? If it's HYBE, that's too long. If it's HYBE, that sounds bad.
Or maybe it's HYBE.
I don't like it. Does it stand for something?
I don't know. I think it's a strange word to pick because it's like, it's hard to pronounce. I read their rationale, and of course that makes sense because they said, well, we're not just an entertainment company. They're doing software. They even talked about real estate or something like that. Yeah, they're planning on other things. They're going to rent out spaces, practice rooms, and use those for their subsidiary companies. So yeah, it involves like real estate and internet areas. Will Big Hit be one of the subsidiaries or no? Because when Google became Alphabet, Google still remained Google. Like that was still a thing. It was just part of Alphabet. Right. Well, I think the problem was Big Hit was the name for everything that was under. Right. And that doesn't make sense. I get that. But Big Hit is also the name of just the record label. Yeah. So I guess they changed the name of the other Big Hit that is the name of everything into HYBE. Before the videos play, will it still say Big Hit? Or will it say HYBE? I think it'll still say Big Hit. Okay, then this is just that's still the record label. Yeah, this is just a stroke. Then this is like the Google thing. Like nobody has to see the words alphabet ever. Right. You still interact with something named Google,
And when you go to Google Campus, it says Google. It doesn't even say, I don't know. I don't work there. But it still generally says Google. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense for that reason. I think it's, by American philosophy, it's kind of odd to diversify so much. There's kind of this belief here, at least, that overly diversifying is a bad thing.
Right. Like if you start as a record label, you'll just be that usually in America.
Or if you have a competitive edge and you know an industry, you don't branch out too far from that and just buy whatever. Because you may buy whatever, but then what competitive advantage do you bring to that industry or company? Mm-hmm. If you bring nothing, then what is the point? You're just owning another thing. That's not great. If you just want to own another thing, you just park your money in like managed funds or something, and just so your company will own stocks of other companies. There's no reason to buy something outright and run it, because you have no special advantage, competitive advantage in running that company in that industry. Like for instance, Apple has a ton of cash, billions and billions of dollars of cash. They could buy all sorts of companies. They could buy a real estate company. They could buy a restaurant chain. They can buy this and that. They can buy all sorts of things, but they don't, because Apple knows that why would that company be any better tomorrow after Apple owns it? If it's a restaurant chain, it probably wouldn't be, because they don't know anything about restaurants.
Right.
So they don't diversify in that way. And in the history of U.S. corporations, some companies like GE have done that, and it's been bad. Like their over diversification has been bad for them. But that said, I do notice that that's not the same philosophy in Korea. Like for instance, for us, Samsung is just a TV and phone maker, but they do practically everything in Korea. I don't know if you know that. They do real estate, I think. They just own things that you wouldn't even think a Samsung would own, right?
Oh, that too?
And Samsung is comparable to Apple. They are kind of similar, right?
Right.
They have diversified into businesses that Apple would never dream of diversifying into, because they say, we don't understand that industry. Why would we even get into it?
Well, I thought Samsung was just doing technology related things. Like I know they have appliances.
And in Japan, it's the same way. Like I think Mitsubishi, what do you think it is? Do you think it's a car?
Cars.
Right? It's 20 things. I don't know what they are, but trust me, it's like they're in like 20 different industries.
Oh, you know what though?
Cars to like paper production. I don't know.
I do know that they have food industry part of
so
Mitsubishi.
You see, they're so,
like, I don't know why.
They're so diversified. It just and Apple would never own a food chain, any kind of food production or something like that, or Tesla would never. It's a car company. Well, I guess Tesla's a bad example because they do kind of but they still do tech, right? Or Ford would never buy any kind of food thing. That's just not the American way of doing things. No, but
it's true. Mitsubishi has like a food company component to it.
Right. So this philosophy,
which is weird.
It's more prevalent in Asia, I think. So, hey, and it works for them. It's not like these companies are failures, but that is odd for an American company. But I guess not so odd for a South Korean company.
I think it's because they have so much money from the IPO or whatever. It's like we got to figure out other ways to continue the business.
I guess one exception, I guess you could say, is Amazon. They are kind of branching out into everything. Mm-hmm. Although they aren't really. Like you might think, well, doesn't Amazon do everything? They do food, they do this, they do that, they do a Kindle, they do books, they do
like TV shows.
Yeah, they sell electronics on their site. They sell everything on their site. But they aren't really branching out when you conceive of Amazon as what they kind of really are, which is a logistics company. Mm-hmm. Amazon, they don't have the best. They don't make the best of anything. They don't make the best phone. Their Fire phone sucks. They don't make the best, like their Alexa or whatever, right? It's not better.
Oh, the personal assistant thing.
It's not better than the Google Home. I can guarantee the Google Home's smarter than the Alexa. Mm-hmm. But Amazon does logistics, meaning they are better than anyone else at getting something from point A to point B fast and efficient and cheap. A lot goes into making it fast, efficient, and cheap, but they're the best at it. And everything is merely to feed into that wheelhouse of theirs. The Alexa is only there to make you order stuff from them.
Right.
Amazon Prime is only there to make you stay in Amazon Prime, which because of free shipping makes you order more stuff, meaning getting stuff from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Right? That is their wheelhouse. They can get stuff from point A to point B better than anybody else. And all of these other trimmings are in service to that. So they're really in one business. All of these other things are just feeding that one business. You know, they don't really even sell stuff. Actually, this is not true. They do have another super profitable business, Amazon Web Services. So they host
The
things.
servers, yeah.
Yeah. That is their one other hugely profitable business. So you could consider that like kind of branching out. But at least that's still sort of tech. It's not like anything close to what an Asian company would, how far they would diversify.
Something very different than what it started as.
So anyway, this is to say that Big Hit, obviously, they have dreams of being the next Samsung, believe it or not. Because I think that's the model over there.
Wow, that's pretty ambitious.
Now, they won't be, but...
They'll be huge in entertainment, I can say that.
Yeah.
And right before the Grammys, BTS and GFriend Twitter accounts, they were posting selfies with the hashtag "What do you believe in?" And that kind of got buried with the whole Grammy stuff that happened. But it seems that was hinting at the new tagline for HYBE, which is, you know, oh, what do you believe in? We believe in music. So I think that's going to replace the Artists for Healing tagline.
Okay. That's fine.
That's very interesting.
They're both pretty banal.
They're still trying to emphasize, like, yes, we're very about the music, but HYBE is going to be about a bunch of other things too. On March 12th, Blackpink's Rose dropped her first solo album, R. This album was in English, and the two tracks are On the Ground and Gone. Gone we'd heard already if you watched Blackpink's last online concert, the show. Rose performed it there, so you kind of heard a preview of it. So she released the video for On the Ground, which is the actual title track. And this album only has 2 songs on it. I thought it was going to be like an actual album, like at least have like 4 or 5 songs on it, but...
No way. Just for her? No way they would do that for her.
Well, I know with Jennie, solo was just 1 song, right? She didn't even get 2.
Just 1.
And so, yeah, that makes sense if you're trying to keep it fair. And it's like, oh, everybody gets, you know, only 1 or 2 songs at a time. But it just seems like not very much happened. It's like, oh, all this build up and it's just 2 songs. So, yeah, I was expecting like more to it because, you know, they're having people pay for this album too. And I don't know if it costs less if there's like only 2 songs or not, but it seems like not a ton of value there. I don't know.
2 is fine. I don't think it needs to be more than 2. K-pop has mini albums.
Yeah. When she came out with Gone, I was under the impression it was all written by her, but now that they released the credits for it, it's written by Rose, Jay Lauren, Teddy Park, and Brian Lee. So I thought that was kind of misleading. It's like, okay, it's written by a couple of people, just, you know, like a regular K-pop song.
Most are.
And the other song was written by, you know, several people also. So On the Ground, what did you think of both songs?
Well, I enjoyed it. I don't know if I commented when it first came out, but I like Gone. It's kind of like Stay. It's got that acoustic, low-key feel to it. And you know Stay is one of my favorite Blackpink songs. Mm-hmm. So it has that exact same vibe. On the Ground, it's not as memorable, but I still enjoyed it. I think I saw some people who were not happy with these tracks, but I think these songs will grow on people. And I don't know what they were expecting. Of course, Rosé's not going to have like a girl crush, hard-hitting Blackpink song. Oh. She's a vocalist.
You think they were expecting more of like Kill This Love or something?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What were they expecting? This is the type of song she would do, and in that vein, they were good songs. I don't know. I
was expecting both songs to be like Gone. Like both would be more acoustic and singer-songwriter kind of vibe.
Well, that's just redundant, I guess, though. I think it was a good variety of songs. And it's good that she got a solo, right? She got the second solo.
Yeah.
Lisa still hasn't gotten a solo, and she's more popular.
I would have expected her to be next.
Yeah. So, good for her. Did you see a lot of people not like it? I didn't really pay attention.
Yeah, I think most people like Gone, and they felt that was very Rosé song, like whatever they think Rosé stands for, they thought that is representing her. But they felt like On the Ground was just very generic, and they didn't like that beat where it picks up in the middle. Like, they're like, oh, why is it EDM all of a sudden?
It's commercial. They wanted a more commercial song.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard it, and before hearing any other one, any other people's comments, I was like, okay, this is good. This is okay. But then I could see how you would not want it like that. Like, you'd rather it just be all acoustic. Because I feel like she could have made these two songs into more of a moment. Like, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm like Jewel. I'm like when Taylor Swift plays a guitar. Like, that kind of a vibe. But it's like I don't know who decided, but I guess her management was like, okay, on the ground, you're still Blackpink. Like, all the like crazy costumes.
Right.
And
But that makes sense as a decision, I think. Because it's just it's continuing with the Blackpink brand.
Right.
They're not in this to continue Rosé's brand.
They don't want to lose that.
Sorry to say this, but they're not in it for her brand. Mm-hmm. They're in it for the Blackpink brand, which is what they own. Well, they own hers too, but it's what they're interested in. So, as a business decision, makes sense. I'm not upset about it. She still had her moment. One song is a moment. Mm-hmm. And this is K-pop. You don't, the albums are sometimes pretty short. So one song is a moment. One song is your chance.
You don't always get tons of opportunities.
Yeah. Jennie got one song. So Rosé got two. Is that not better?
Yeah,
maybe
make it work.
Lisa will only get one, or maybe she'll get three. I don't know. But I saw no problem with the decision. I like both songs. I'm generally easy to please, but I like both songs. I'll be listening to them, so.
I like the On the Ground MV visually. It had a lot of really good outfits and set design.
It looked like a Blackpink video. It seemed to repeat some sets, by the way.
Yeah, it did look a little bit too similar to parts of Lovesick Girls. Mm-hmm. And it didn't seem to have a story. It was just her in a couple different places.
Well, there was a swing, just like Stay.
Oh, okay. Maybe there was a storyline there.
Use the same swing, yeah.
But yeah, I can see the things that people criticize. I can see what the purpose was of doing that. Like making her still look like this is Rosé from Blackpink instead of this is just Rosé. Because that was a choice by YG. So I think they had a reason for doing that. And they felt like that was the way to go. March 10th, Rain released another collab that he's doing. Like he's doing a lot of these lately. And this one was with Jackson Wang. So I was like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty good then. I'm going to go check it out. And the song is called Magnetic. And if you watch the MV, it's basically they're at an art gallery or something, or a shopping mall.
Art gallery.
And yeah, and they're just walking around looking cool. And
it came out of a painting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And they're wearing, like, the style of this video is something I noticed. I was like, why do they have blazers but no shirts on? Is that a look?
No shirt. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Rain ever wears a shirt. I don't think this guy wears a shirt.
He doesn't wear one, period.
No, he's not a shirt wearing guy. He's everywhere. He did something with Chang'e earlier in the month.
And then we switched to
He's coming back, it seems like.
I'm really noticing Rain all of a sudden.
Like there's a concerted effort. Well, back to this video. Yeah, I noticed that they weren't wearing any shirts. Like that's not really the proper way to wear a suit. I don't know. You see the other guys in the video, they were wearing suits and shirts. But that's okay. When you work out a lot. And Rain had less of his body showing than Jackson. That's probably an inversion for him. Usually he has more body showing than the other guy. But this time, I don't know. Maybe Jackson, he might be in better shape. He's younger.
Yeah. Maybe you don't want to overshadow the person you're collaborating with.
But they both... It's an okay song. I'm not going to say I love the song. I don't. And it's kind of it's a ballad and a duet.
That is odd that it's two guys.
But it's two guys singing a ballad duet. That's kind of weird, isn't it? That's not a typical choice. Right? So in that sense, it felt kind of odd. But even if it were a man and a woman singing, I don't think I would love it. It sounded kind of generic.
It's a very R&B song. I think it's something JYP would really like.
Was it a JYP produced thing? It was, right?
I'm not sure.
It had a JYP. Let me open it right now.
But it's his style of song because it reminded me of 90s R&B songs.
No. It was Rain's company.
Yeah.
And it was composed by Jackson Wang, Boy Toy, One Way. It's a Jackson Wang.
Oh, okay. So some
Jackson. That's weird. It's Jackson Wang wrote the song, but it says Rain featuring Jackson Wang.
Yeah, it says featuring Jackson Wang, but produced by Jackson Wang.
Yeah. So it's not technically his song. Anyway.
I guess he created the song. He kind of gave it to Rain to be the main person on it. Well, that's different.
Yeah, so this is not a JYP production. This is Rain.
But yeah, we're seeing a lot of Rain lately, and I guess it's kind of a comeback in a way because he's known very differently in his career before this. Like he's had some songs that are a lot more...
Well, he's from a much earlier generation.
Yeah, where there's like more hip-hop, more... I don't know if he rapped or what, but he had like a harder style before, I think.
Yeah,
and
he did a movie.
And I think some of his videos, they were viral, but like because people thought they were too over the top or funny. So it's like, it's not necessarily getting attention for the right reasons, but I think now he's kind of making more of a...
Well, it was also just before the whole YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Right? It was, I think he predates Super Junior. So I think this is earlier than like 2008. I think he predates Super Junior. Don't quote me on this, but I believe so.
Yeah, I know it was like earlier in the 2000s.
Maybe he just feels like he kind of missed out, you know?
Right. He makes sense for now, like the music he's doing now.
Like, well, I wish that I was big when, you know, I could just put stuff out on YouTube and I could break into the American market. And there's more of an appetite for K-pop. I wish, I wish I made music. I'm like, but wait, I'm alive. I can still make music. And then that's what he's doing. He's sort of like a really attractive woman who like married very young and then feels like she sort of missed out, and then she divorces her husband.
It's like back on the scene.
Takes his money and then goes to Miami and has an Instagram. And I'm talking about specific people in America. Larsa Pippen.
You can be an influencer now.
Right. I was like, I'm still attractive.
That can be an entire
I'm still attractive.
career.
But there was no Instagram when I was young and attractive.
Yeah. I missed out.
I need to do all of these things. I think that Rain is like that. Not to denigrate what he's doing. I think he has more to offer than your typical like woman putting herself back on the market. But
yeah, I think he always had talent, but it's like maybe he was before his time.
Yeah, he was just born in the wrong time. But hey, you know what? Can still sing. He still has some name recognition. He still looks good without a shirt.
Yeah.
So why not?
And he has a YouTube show, like season, whatever it's called. But I think another thing working to his benefit is like he's a very likable personality. So people like him. So whatever he's doing, if he's going to be on a variety show or whatever, or making music, people will pay attention to that. So I think he's been known more for personality.
Oh.
Like in between his music.
I don't know anything about his personality. But yeah, maybe he's liked.
Yeah, he's very likable character. So I think that helps him. Like that, maybe that's why he's able to get all these collaborations going. He's like, oh, people like him.
Makes sense. Right. He still has connections, friends.
So Yunho from TVXQ is being investigated by police because he stayed in a restaurant, which possibly was an illegal brothel, past the COVID curfew. And this happened last week. He was caught violating social distancing rules. And I think it was the media that found out about all this. I don't know if they were tracking him or following him or they got a tip or something. But they said that Yunho was one of at least 5 people in an adult entertainment establishment drinking after 10 p.m. And that's past when they're supposed to be closed for the COVID curfew. And this all took place inside of some high-rise building, so it's like you can't even tell what's what. Like, oh, what's this business? Like, if you didn't know what's there already. So it sounds like someone had to have given a tip or something, or somebody ratted him out, and that's how...
Well, who found out, the media or the police? Both? What? I mean, the people all have, they have connections. Media have connections in the police department,
Yeah.
This is typical. No big deal.
Sounds like there was some kind of tip-off that police entered the building, and then there was talk that he was trying to escape and like get out of there before he could be caught. But I think SM came out and they said, no, that's not what happened. They denied it. After all this happened, he apologized, and I don't think he's in
Apologize for what?
For breaking the curfew.
The curfew? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't...
They didn't admit it was a brothel, though.
No, that part is not 100% confirmed, but that's what people are saying because of, I think somebody on the footage recognize it as a place that's known for that. So they're like, oh, there's already rumors about this place, this building, and like that exact place where he was at. So it's like, oh, he was caught at that kind of a place. So that makes the story like even crazier. Like that's, I mean, if it's just you're out after curfew, that's okay. So what? That's not a big deal. But the fact that it was like that kind of a place.
So are people upset that he's breaking COVID curfew or that he might be at a brothel? Which one is more serious I'm guessing the brothel part.
I think that's the more shocking part. Although I think people everywhere are still getting mad about COVID violations. I feel like we're moving past that, but I think people still get angry about breaking those rules too.
It would be very 2021 if people were angry about the COVID curfew being broken than the illegal brothel. Well, I mean, I don't know whether or not it was a brothel. I'm going to say that, was he trying to run away? Does that confirm? He was trying to run away. It probably was a less than reputable place.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be caught there if you're an idol, and that's just bad publicity. And
you say it was an illegal brothel, but I mean, illegal, I don't know. I've never been to Korea, so I don't know how common or how quasi-legal a lot of these places are. But for instance, there's stuff like hostess bars, like hostess karaoke and things like that. That's very common in Korea.
Oh, like
I don't know that that's a brothel.
You pay for drinks of girls?
You pay for girls to sit with you and drink.
Yeah.
That's a thing. What else goes on? I don't know. But if we're being realistic about what goes on at these places, I think you can kind of guess, right? And these places are more or less accepted, right? And just like it's technically illegal to have prostitution in Thailand, but we all know that it happens and it doesn't get prosecuted, right?
Right.
So I don't know how actually accepted it is. Just saying something is illegal, that's not a full context, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And it's like, what do you mean by brothel? Because that could be a wide range of things.
No, I'm pretty sure that means one particular kind of thing. I think that means you exchange sex for money. But how accepted that is socially, I don't know. Culturally, I don't know. Maybe it is sort of quasi-accepted and quasi-legal, but people hold Kpop artists to a higher standard. Perhaps that is going on. All of this, I'm not sure. Sorry, I didn't do the research into this, but
you know how sometimes there's a strip club and then like you might be there and you're just there to drink. Like maybe you didn't pay for any lap dance or something. Like maybe that's the situation he was in.
It's possible. Yeah, that's possible. But are people that upset? Because I'm going to tell you right now, this type of stuff, it happens.
Now, some people are saying that they're confused by the story because Yunho is known as an upstanding guy. So he had a very clean image from when he was doing this group. But then it's like, okay, that's not his fault. That's SM saying,
right. And that's the company image. As we talked about, as we all know, that is a produced image.
It's like he's out on his own time. And of course he knows like, oh, I got to try to not be caught at a place like this, in public. But it's like, if it happens.
I just got to tell you, I mean, young guys with money and time on their hands, they often go to places like this. Hate to break it to you. I know. And if you feel like you can no longer be a fan of his because he does something like this, that's your right. But just letting you know, this is more common than you think. And it's very likely that a lot of idols that you like have done this sort of thing. It's just extremely likely. So digest that how you will. It doesn't mean you have to keep liking him. If you think this is a really serious breach of moral character, then that's your right. But a lot of the idols that you follow probably are in violation of this. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And it's not like, I don't think these establishments are rare in Korea, right? That's right. My guess. I don't think they're exactly rare.
Like all it is like a floor and a room in a high-rise building. Like no one could know it's even there.
I think that, don't quote me on this because it's totally based on nothing. I was watching a documentary at some point and it said something like, this percentage of Korean women have done, South Korean women have done sex work, have been in the sex industry. Whatever you want to consider that. It could be brothels. Maybe they are thinking like just even being like a karaoke host or something qualifies. Or, having an OnlyFans maybe qualifies too, of course. But I remember the percentage sounding high.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think Yeah, I don't think that it's that out of place in the culture. So him being there, it just doesn't strike me as something that is that egregious if it's relatively commonplace in the culture, you know?
Right. I think it probably is a pretty common thing. It's just if you're a K-pop idol, it's everything you do is amplified, and you can't even really date because then okay, whoever you're dating, like that's gonna get out, and then that's gonna makes news everywhere, and you don't really want your private life all over the place. So maybe they're finding it easier to meet women like that, and it's like
A lot of famous guys think it's easier. Honestly, a lot of famous guys think it's easier just to solicit prostitution. Okay, that's a fact because it's quieter. You have more control, right?
right.
When you have relationships, it's not transactional, and you can get into more you can actually get into more trouble in their some people's viewpoints. You can actually get into more trouble in regular relationships, so they prefer this. And I'm not here to get into a discussion whether or not prostitution should be legalized. Like I have my opinion on it. Some people think that no, we should ban it at all costs because it facilitates sex trafficking. Some people say that's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There's perfectly legal and protected ways to conduct the sex industry.
Right, there's women that want to do that.
And still to prevent sex trafficking, you know. And they say that you shouldn't limit people's rights to work how they want to work.
The type of work they want to do.
Yeah. The argument that two consenting adults can have a business transaction. And on the face of that sounds pretty fair, yeah. But if you're of the position that it's impossible to extricate a largely negative component, as in sex trafficking, then maybe, okay, it's justifiable to restrict two consenting adults' ability to have a mutual business transaction because it's for the good of society or whatever. I mean, we make those restrictions all the time for the good of society. We don't just let two consenting adults do anything. Right. But at the same time, most people would say that we should try to let two consenting adults do as much as they want to do together. Most people probably agree with that, but it's not black or white. It's not one way or the other. There's some middle ground that people have to meet. Some societies, like the Netherlands, they have decided that it's worth it to fall on the side of letting people do what they want to do.
Right. Some societies, it's more about the freedom, and other societies, it's more about
in this particular.
What do we agree with morally?
And some societies, they want to restrict it for whatever benefit, right? This is not the time to get into that. What I will say is that there are reasons to do it. I read some people wondering, like, why would a famous, good-looking guy do that when plenty of women would want to date him? It's like, but he doesn't want to date. He just wants to have sex. And having a purely transactional sexual relationship is more convenient and safer in some ways for a person. You don't have to agree with it, but that's a logic that some people have. Okay? And I would say that you, as a person who is not famous and not in the public eye, you're not really exactly in the place to disagree with it because you don't have the same constraints on your life. You're not facing those same sort of pressure, right? You could have one bad encounter with a woman or bad relationship, and that could tarnish your reputation.
Right.
Right? But it's very unlikely that you'll have a bad transaction with prostitute because she will just come do her job and then done. That's it. Some people prefer that transaction. They don't want a relationship.
Yeah. And
that's not on you to decide what they should want.
And then that's not going to be front page on Dispatch. It's like,
correct.
Look at what G-Dragon and Jenny have to deal with for publicly dating.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Would you be upset if you found if this was a BTS member instead? Like, what if like V was at a brothel or something?
Wow, that would be crazy.
They're all men. There's 7 men. Chances are they're all straight. Really high chance that at least 6 are. Right? They're all in Korea. I mean, they're in the same industry. I'm just saying, this sort of goes back to something I said before. Just it's best not to put people on a pedestal. Number 1, you won't be disappointed. Number 2, you should just allow for people to be human.
Yeah, this is how they want to live their lives.
You know, and you can say, well, does that mean we should accept any kind of behavior? Like, no, I mean, if they're killing babies or whatever, of course. There's a spectrum here. There's always a spectrum, right? Yeah, but in a lot of countries, prostitution is a quasi-legal thing or just not really prosecuted. And my view, it's kind of in the middle of the spectrum. If it's illegal, it's illegal. But not all illegal things are the same, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here just as a fan of someone's music. It's like, I'm not trying to judge everybody's like personal decisions. Like, if it's not really hurting anyone, I just feel like let's try to be more understanding. Like, whatever. He felt like that's how he wants to meet women and interact with them, then it is what it is.
Yeah. And you know what? The company and the artists should also shoulder some blame for this too, because they definitely cultivate this image.
Yeah.
It's to their financial benefit to make fans think that I'm just perfect. I'm an idol, right? That's why they use the term idol. Idol means something very specific. Taylor Swift doesn't call herself an idol.
Mm-hmm.
She calls herself a music artist, right? And that implies a different kind of relationship that they're trying to cultivate with fans. So they're somewhat at fault for this as well, because you can't, on the one hand, make money by creating this image, this unassailable image where you're worshipped by fans.
Yeah.
And then when it bites you in the butt because you can't live up to that image, which by the way, nobody can because people are human, people are fallible, that's just part of the business then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you benefited financially from cultivating the image, and when you can't live up to it, you're punished. And that's what's going on with him now. And that's always going to be the case as long as the business model of K-pop includes the idol part, right? As soon as they just start calling themselves music artists, I'm not a role model, I'm not an idol, I'm not here to be worshipped by you. You like my music, you like it. You don't, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Once they switch to that, if they switch to that model, then people will just not care. And I don't think anybody would stop listening to Eminem if they found out he was at a brothel, right?
Right.
But Eminem never told you that he was any kind of good person, right?
Right.
So
That's
there
true.
you have it. There's the difference, right? He never said he loved his fans even once, I think, in the 20 years of his career, maybe. Because you know what? I don't think he actually loves you. But anyway, the point remains, he never said he was good. He never said he was infallible. He never said he was nice. He never said he loved you. Right?
So you didn't have an expectation.
Yeah,
right?
he never made a little heart symbol with his hands, right? So, nobody has any sort of expectation from him, so they won't be disappointed by him. But it's going to keep happening with idols.
I think in this case, too, at least SM, they've made money off his image and everything that they created, but at least they're standing up for him. They were, putting out a statement defending him and saying he didn't run away and all this stuff, and they seem to protect their other artists that get into scandals, like Irene and the girl from aespa and stuff. So
they'll stand up for you as long as you can't prove it. That's the thing. If you can prove that, if they could prove that this guy was like throwing dogs out of a car or something, he'd be fired tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they can prove that he did something really heinous,
it's like there's a video of him doing this thing.
Right. As long as nobody can prove it, then yeah, they'll stand by you. That kind of makes sense.
Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can find BTS Happy Hour on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. New episodes weekly. To support the podcast, please comment and share on social media, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or give us a rating on your podcast app. Follow BTS Happy Hour on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where there's a Facebook page and Facebook group. You can also go to the website at btshappyhour.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional content. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.